The Kids Range account, along with its owner Gatis Lagzdins, were once beloved by the Runescape community, with his videos garnering hundreds of thousands of views. After quitting Runescape, he would re-emerge and garner infamy for his views on incest, flat earth, and eating raw and rotten meat. Let's find out what happened in his Runescape days and beyond. I'm the Runescape historian. Let's get into it. How's it going, guys? It's me, 2008, Big Nose Justin Bieber here, and the video we have today is going to be a lot different than what I typically do. We're going to be going over RuneScape history in a sense, but it's going to be the history of a singular person. The person we're going to be going over is the owner of the account. I'm just going to call it Kids Range, even though the G, there was like a Q in G's place, just easier to pronounce. But I'm going to remain as unbiased as possible for you guys that kind of know a little bit about this guy. There is a little bit of room to poke fun at the guy, but I'm going to try and avoid doing that and just bring you the facts, and you can make your own judgment. So yeah, let's get right into it. Throughout RuneScape's history, there have been many unique accounts created. This is especially true in the pking community, where there have been dozens and dozens of accounts created with varying degrees of success. One such account that did have a massive amount of success was created by Gatis Lagzdins, and it would become known as Kids Range. The account was created on October of 2005, and would become known for being a 1 defense maxed combat pure. On June of 2006, the first bout of trouble with this account would emerge. The account was temporarily banned due to negative membership credit, forcing Gatis to pay for his membership with pay by cash. In the early summer of 2006, Gatis would join the pure-based clan known as Mayhem Makers. However, just a few months later he would be banned from the website after an argument with a fellow clan member on the forums. This would serve as early foreshadowing of Gatis being verbally antagonistic and somewhat disagreeable to some people. The trouble would continue during the following months, only this time it would be much more dark and would be much more serious, seeing as how it did not take place from behind a keyboard. On October 3rd, 2006, in Ventspils, Latvia, a 16-year-old Gatis Lagzdins would arm himself with 2 knives and attack 4 students at his school, Ventspils Gymnasium No. 1. He stabbed and injured 2 boys and a girl inside his classroom, and even attacked a 3rd boy as he ran for safety. Latvian police said they found him sitting in front of a computer after the attack with the 2 knives beside him, and claimed he was influenced by a movie to do this action. This would be confirmed to be Gatis over a decade later, when he was identified by the headmistress of the school at the time of the stabbing after she viewed one of his videos of his anti-vegan protests. All 4 of the victims would sustain light injuries and would be treated at a nearby hospital. 3 months after the school incident, on January 2007, the first Kids Range video would be released. The video spiked in popularity not only due to Kids Range 1 defense pure that was max combat, but also he had some skill for back in the day. 9 more videos would come down the pipeline from January 2007 to May 2007, each one getting more and more popular than the last. However, on May 2007, around the time of video 10, the Kids Range account would be hacked by one of Gatis' former friends. This would be the first of many. Gatis didn't falter and released videos 11 and 12 after receiving donations and rebuilding, but then would be hacked again around video 13. The hacking around video 13 was unique though, because the hacker did not have the bank pin that Gatis had recently put on the account. Therefore, he contacted Gatis and said, "You will give me this bank pin, otherwise I'm going to ruin the Kids Range account and I'm going to level defense." Gatis refused to give him the bank pin, and the hacker ended up getting around 32 defense. For video 14, Gatis got 45 defense and made his iconic account into what is now known as a Zerker pure. After the video, the hacker would get into the account again and end up cracking the bank pin. From what I researched, this is due to another real-life friend giving the hacker the bank pin. This led to Gatis scraping together any unused clips he had and making video 15. Also, around video 15, the Kids Range account details were leaked to the internet. This led to hundreds and hundreds of eager players trying to get their hands on the account and trying to recover the account at once. This led to the account being permanently locked by Jagex. I believe it is still locked to this day, and it is even listed on many black market websites as, free Kids Range account because it's bricked, it's useless, you can't get into it and you can't do anything with it. Throughout the following years, Gatis would still make content, but it would be on Kids Range with a G, or his other account Saz owned. He would still remain popular on both of these accounts, but would ultimately quit RuneScape entirely in 2011, deeming all video games as a waste of time.
Account was hacked. I did not exactly celebrate it, but it was also not a tragedy. And later, when my YouTube account was hacked and the videos were removed, it was also not as if I celebrated it, but in the end, I realized that it freed me, and I'm actually thankful whoever did those things, the YouTube account and the sv3rige account. And in 2011, when I saw all the Masonic symbols in the game, I quit without ever looking back.
This would eventually lead to Gatis making IRL content and having some of his more controversial opinions come to light.
You're mentally ill if you don't eat raw meat, okay? What excuse could you fucking possibly have for not eating your natural diet? If you see blood, liver and brain and don't find those foods appetizing, then you're mentally ill. You have been indoctrinated.
It was also around this time that Gatis would start a forum called An Instrument for All for himself and his followers to post things without being laughed at or judged. The topics on this forum would range from just normal conversation to a little bit weirder stuff, to just say the least.
Finally here, what all of you have been waiting for. We made a forum. The basic point is to have a forum where you don't get censored, where you don't get laughed at, where you can talk about your views and opinions freely.
On July 31st of 2013, on these forums, Gatis would be introduced to sun gazing by one of his followers. He was kind of skeptical at first, but he would eventually commit to sun gazing while being on a vegan diet. After about a year of sun gazing consistently for multiple hours a day, he decided he would try to go 30 days feeding off of just solar energy and water, as well as a little bit of juice.
A lot. I sun gazed all the time, every day. When there was a cloud, I waited for the cloud to go away and just sun gaze all the time, from sunrise to sunset. And whatever this is that I experienced on the 10th of March 2015 is that I had some kind of vibration here, the solar plexus, the energy centrum, the core of the body, and I wasn't able to eat anymore. It just felt better not to eat. And a month went on with only water. And
he claims to have gone up to 30 days without food, which is highly unbelievable, as that is not sustainable. He says as the days went on, he felt weaker. Go figure. And this eventually led to him being sent to intensive care at the hospital for around 9 days.
Some woman saw me and she said, do you need like help? Because I just couldn't really even walk anymore. My muscles had died off, everything. The body was not working, total organic failure. So she called the fire department. They told me take a taxi home. I didn't want to do anything. Then they saw that I'm really weak, so they brought me to the hospital, and there they checked out that I had 400 milliliters of water around my heart in the Wasserbeutel of Deutsch. And they did a surgery, took out the water, and I was in the intensive care for 9 days.
While in intensive care, he didn't agree with the treatment the doctors were giving him. He even said he developed a craving for human flesh, and due to his frustration with the treatment the doctors were giving him, he recalls wanting to leap up, bite them, and eat them.
Intensive care, I talked about this in the video, sun gazing warning. When I was really starved and then I started eating again, I wanted flesh so much that I actually wanted human flesh, and there's a reason for this. I was quite mad at these doctors there because they were giving me this carbohydrate shit, and there's a lot of stuff going wrong there, and that's why I actually wanted to just bite one of them and eat them.
It was due to this experience that Gatis found himself wanting to try raw meat. He would get the opportunity 3 to 4 months later after researching the topic. He would return from a trip and try raw meat finally. Unfortunately for Gatis though, he would develop a rare bacteria that would affect his muscles. He found it hard to even open doors, walk, or do simple tasks. It would take Gatis a full month to fully recover, or to even start recovering rather. Despite this, Gatis would develop a raw meat diet. Around the middle of 2016, he would act aggressively toward anyone that did not share his diet and lifestyle. This was especially true for the vegan and vegetarian community. He viewed them as lesser beings and even viewed them as government plants to destroy the human race.
You're mentally ill if you don't eat raw meat, okay? What excuse could you fucking possibly have for not eating your natural diet? If you see blood, liver and brain and don't find those foods appetizing, then you're mentally ill. You have been indoctrinated. You are a Satanist if you cook food.
99% of people are retarded. What does it mean if what you create appeals to them? It means that you are retarded too.
A little after this time frame, in the summer of 2016, he would even start to hold subscriber-based meetups where subscribers would come out and hang out with them, and the subscribers would even chip in or fully pay for rental properties for them to stay at for a couple of nights. I'm adding this on a different day, but some of these subscribers were so dedicated, at least one of them was. There's been one confirmed piece of evidence I found where they would actually ship Gatis their own human blood for him to consume and drink.
I helped him with some things. I even sent him my fucking blood. And he doesn't care at all.
Typically when they rented these properties, it could be up to like 20 people, and they would use services such as Airbnb. Well, on Airbnb, you can not only just review the property owners, but the property owners that you've rented from can review you. And upon going to Airbnb, you will find many reviews on Gatis and the state him and his followers would leave these rental properties in. This led to him getting a bunch of negative reviews on Airbnb. The first review reads, Gatis and his group had to arrive at 20 in a house of 14, but they arrived with 25 or 30 people. He was not honest, knowing that the regulation specified that they had to pay a supplement beyond 14 people. They refused to pay it later. They organized a meeting at our place. We found maggots in the garbage cans, and guys, I'll explain what I think, those came from. I mean, if it wasn't obvious. A horror. In spite of the antecedents, I trusted Gatis and I regret. Basically, there was more reviews preceding this one and they were negative, but they ignored that and tried to give him a chance. The house was left in a lame state after 10 hours of cleaning. I really do not recommend. I'm not going to read off all these because there's a lot more. If you want to read up all these in video format, there is a smaller creator who's been following this guy. I'll link the YouTube channel down in the description, and I'll put the channel name up on the screen right now. This review reads, very childish, disrespectful, untrustworthy person. For very futile reasons asked a reimburse that was never agreeable by Airbnb, as I showed evidence to have respected all the standards. He would actually reply to this review and said, she was simply mad that I asked for a refund because her place was horrible. I did get half of it back at least. To summarize this one, he basically threw eggs on the walls, destroyed the kitchen appliances, and destroyed some towels. All in all, the owner lost 3 days to having to bring the apartment to the state it was in before Gatis stayed there. It's also some odd story he made up of his girlfriend supposedly getting injured at the property and trying to get money from the owner, I guess, for that. He broke the house rules. He apparently had drunken parties into the night, was very noisy, and then ends it off with, I absolutely do not recommend Gatis. Unfortunately, the footage from a lot of these subscriber meetups has been scrubbed from the internet due to Gatis' original YouTube account sv3rige being taken down due to violating YouTube guidelines. Essentially, what would happen is the subscribers would gather around Gatis and they would share what is known as high meat. What high meat is essentially rotten meat that is thought to have psychedelic properties or mimic the effects of certain recreational drugs. The remnants or jars were then thrown into the Airbnb trash, which is why there was such a concentration of maggots and other things in the trash, and the owners were horrified and it probably stunk like hell. Beginning around 2018, Gatis and his followers would appear at many vegan and vegetarian festivals, usually with like a raw pig head in hand, raw squirrel, raw meat, and they would devour and gross out passerbys that were attending the festival or just walking by. This even grossed out non-vegans and non-vegetarians and ended up causing a few of them to supposedly transition away to a meatless diet. These anti-vegan-like protests where they would eat raw meat typically followed a similar formula. They would show up, devour raw meat, upset people, they would get security or police called on them, and they would be, escorted off the premises, and there was even a few instances of Gatis being arrested.
15 minutes you gotta...
Can you go?
No.
Leave the area?
Why? Every 15 minutes you gotta change.
Sorry.
Sorry? You're
I call
sorry?
the police.
Well, the police is right there. What are you gonna do? Vegan market.
Some of the biggest drugs for healthy animals in the world get other nutrients from plants. I do too.
Okay. Do you know that gorillas eat a ketogenic diet?
Our conversation. Clearly, this is ignorance, not knowing anything.
Don't talk to me.
I don't want to talk to you.
I talk to him.
Yeah, we are
But
animals.
what
We
can you
don't
tell
need to
me?
eat meat for a healthy diet. Why do we
You have to leave. You have to leave.
And other
Don't you get it?
animals
You have to leave. You have to leave. Don't you get it?
Have you eaten?
What the fuck was there?
I ask you.
Man, this is a public spot. I'm eating meat. What the fuck do I care? What you think? You think I care? Oh, fucking hell.
When he managed to poison himself eating a dead pig, and he's sitting in hospital, and we're thinking all four of you here have come for your protest. We're just wondering what you're really trying to say.
He looks really poisoned, doesn't he?
Apart from scaring the kids, and you've got 3 kids that you've made cry, what is it you're trying to do?
Great crested green round the
He would also garner a lot of criticism for his learn to fight in nature videos, not man-made, something along those lines. But you can even tell with very little fighting experience that some of this stuff would not exactly work.
Always grab the balls and just squeeze them very hard. They will go absolutely in shock. So the way people fight nowadays is, as a sport, they follow rules, and you don't do that in nature. Another thing you would do is gouge the eyes out when you get the chance, and they will go in shock again. All of this stuff that nobody expects anymore. And usually you would fight till death in nature. Follow the videos on YouTube teaching people how to fight unnaturally, because nobody fights like that in nature. All of the moves that you use with punching and kicking would do very little good in nature. So, firstly, you would take anything you can to throw, any kind of rock, anything that is hard, and you would just throw it because humans are able to, unlike all the other animals. Secondly, if you try to punch me like you would, anybody who is strong, even if it's very strong bones, very strong muscles, you could overpower them by simply jumping on them, and they wouldn't even expecting you. If you would put your arms around them and bite them in the neck and just bite a piece out, they would be so much in shock that you could do anything with them afterwards. Punch me like you would.
Dodging straight backwards is never a great idea. An aggressive striker will just steamroll you. Better to cut an angle, giving you an advantage while your attacker has to pivot to face you again.
Anybody who is strong, even if it's very strong bones, very strong muscles, you could overpower them by simply jumping on them.
Good luck getting through kicking range, punching range, and past their knees and elbows with your hands down and no guard. I noticed your mate even landed a punch on you before you got to him.
If you would put your arms around them and bite them in the neck.
Not only can you not strike, you can't grapple either. He could easily defend the bite by just getting his head in the way. And as you've given him double underhooks, he could toss you to the ground like a rag doll. I'm guessing your jiu-jitsu's probably because man-made rules. So he'll probably choke you out or snap one of your arms.
And just bite a piece out.
Great self-defense advice. You know, if that was to actually work, the carotid artery and jugular vein run right there. I'd rather not go to prison for murder.
I really like that guy's response to his fighting video. But yeah, that's about all I have. I would like to quickly speed run some of his controversial, thoughts on things. And don't send this guy any hate or anything like that. sv3rige or Gatis, whatever you want to call him. Just really wanted to document, because I think he's interesting to say the least. Take what you will from that. I think he's interesting. Not a good person, but his thoughts on things are interesting, and I fell down a rabbit hole researching this for just about a week, little over a week now. And I think I barely scratched the tip of the iceberg. So you guys are more than welcome to fall down the rabbit hole. I apologize to some of you guys that will fall down it and spend hours researching and looking at some of the weird stuff this guy does. But yeah, let's do the speed run.
What's up? What's up? You may not understand this because you grew up as a slave, but the police are Satanists. After a few years of doing the job, police officers get used to the illusion of power that they have and start beating up and raping their victims. I have as much respect for you as I have for vegetarians, which is none. You're at the bottom of this reality. You're in a trap and you're never going anywhere. You're the same people who will get diagnosed with cancer and everybody around you. And because of your ignorance, not understanding that cancer is actually a good thing, you will get the treatments and you will die from it. And how nobody wants to talk about it. But when it comes to incest, nobody wants to even think about it. As a carnivore, it's best to consume what's closest to you for regeneration. And if you switch off what you have learned for a second, you may come to the same conclusion about sex. You are a Satanist if you cook food. The water actually dehydrates you. Yes, you've been lied to all of your life. Look into it. If you do that first thing in the morning, you're just gonna flush away all of your nutrients.
So as I've stated before, these rants were probably about 1% of all the stuff you could find on this guy on the internet, whether that be YouTube, Rumble, other websites have archived some of his rambles. But yeah, I also want to apologize to some of you guys who I know will be drugged down this rabbit hole and waste countless hours, because it is morbidly kind of interesting. As always, especially if you watch this far into the video, I want to thank each and every one of you for all the support. And yeah, I will see you in the next one. Peace.